Hi, Trapar here. In this tutorial, we'll be looking at a MIDI effect rack that will allow you to isolate a specific note in one track and use it in another. In this case, I'm going to show you how you can use this to make a bass automatically follow along with a kick drum. Alright, so the basis for this effect is the scale MIDI effect. We'll go ahead and drag one of those into a new channel. Now, typically scale is used to configure what scale you're playing in, but we're actually going to be using it to block specific note ranges using this range and lowest parameter. But the first thing we need to do is disable all the notes so nothing gets through within those ranges. Now we're going to go ahead and duplicate, so Control D, so that we can have one range that's below the note that we want to keep and one range above the note that we want to keep, and then we'll only have that one note left. Go ahead and group these now, Control G on both of them, and open up the macro knobs, and we're going to map out these parameters now. So go into map mode, and click on the range on the first one, map to macro knob number 1, and lowest on the second one, and map that to macro knob number 1 as well. Now, in order to be able to keep one note in between these two scales, we need to bump this second one up by 3 semitones, which is going to be D sharp -2, so go ahead and do that. And now we're pretty much done. This is actually the MIDI effect rack completed right here. What this does is any MIDI that comes into this is going to hit the first one, and that's going to block all of the notes below the note that you select, and then the second one's going to block all the notes above the note you select, and that note is selected with this macro knob. So you can see as I adjust this, it's adjusting the range on the first one and lowest on the second one, and that is adjusting which note is going to be picked there. So to give you an example of this, I'm going to feed the drums into this track and put it monitor in, and now what we should see happen is when I play these drums, I want to keep the note for the kick, which I know is note 35, but it's actually pretty easy to determine which note is which just by scrolling through on this macro knob. So let's give this a try and look at the MIDI indicator right here, and what we should see happen is that whenever the kick is triggered, we will see this indicator light up. Let's give it a try. Okay, so that looks good. Now we can clean this up. I don't really care what you call it, but I call it Note Selector. And we can name this Note and color it or something. And this is pretty much done. I'll actually show you an example of it where I'll have it make a bass follow along. So the whole idea is that the kick is going to get pulled in and then the bass is going to be playing those notes. So I can delete this MIDI track here. Same thing, the MIDI from the drums are being routed into this track. We got monitor set to in, and I'll turn the drums off so you can hear this, but this is basically what we're getting. Not very interesting. And actually, we do have a couple issues here, which is both that the note length of the kicks are really short, so we're not really getting much. And then also, the notes that are being played are in C1, but this bass is actually expecting things that are in C3. So we can fix both of those really quick. This is just good stuff to know. Drag a note length in here and then a pitch MIDI effect in here. And the pitch, we can set this up to +24, so that's going to put it into the right octave. And the note length, we set the mode to sync, and it doesn't really matter, but you get the idea. This is going to be 16th notes now. So now when I play this, it sounds a bit better. And turn on the drums and let's hear what that sounds like. Sweet, sounds good. So exactly how is this practical? Well, I'm going to be discussing in a later tutorial how I'm going to use this to create a signal for doing sidechain compression. But other than that, it's good for live situations, using one instrument to trigger another, but only on specific notes. But, you know, you're just going to have to kind of use your imagination. Get thinking about these MIDI effect racks. They're actually really useful, but I think not very many people use them. Anyway, thanks for watching, and subscribe to stay tuned for more tutorials like this.